Managing frontline workers can be challenging for many organizations, especially in those where they make up the majority of the workforce. How do you make sure that they have the same messaging policies, the same meeting policies, the same live event policies, the same applications installed? How do you ensure that your help desk doesn't get overwhelmed by the requests of resetting username and passwords or changing phone numbers? How do you also make sure that the login experience is easy in order not to get too many calls with questions, with basic questions? We'll look into this right now. The Teams Admin Center gives us many management capabilities. The first thing we're going to talk about are policy packages. Policy packages are a collection of settings related to Teams, a collection which you can then assign to a user. This way you ensure that all the people assigned to that policy have the same Teams settings. If we go into policy packages, we can see that we have packages for different types of roles. For us, we have one for frontline managers and one for frontline workers. If we go into the frontline worker one in detail, we see settings for messages, meetings, apps, calls, and live events. For instance, with the app setup policy, we can decide what applications can be installed in Teams for the frontline workers. In our case, it's Viva connections, walkie-talkie, chat, and so on and so forth. Then, we need to make sure that we standardize how teams are being created for frontline workers. Let's assume that we want to create a standard kind of team for each of our stores if we're in retail. That's why we go into Teams, Teams templates, and we can see here that we have a frontline worker demo team template. Here we can say which channels each team has and what applications should be installed. This way, if we go into Teams and create a new team, you can see that we have the template available here. It has two channels and the apps that we defined in the policy. If I create a team now, it will have the defined channels and applications. I've shown you quite a number of settings though. How do you bring these together? Let's say that you're an organization that just bought the frontline worker licenses and you need to get started with them. There is a wizard that you can use, which we will look at in detail right now. The wizard can be found in the Microsoft 365 Admin Center under Setup, Apps and Email. Get your frontline workforce up and running. Here you can set up a team for your frontline workers. Again, you can use the template that I've shown earlier, in our case the frontline worker demo team template with the 2 channels and 3 applications. You can add team members as individuals or groups of users. You define the managers of the units and the workers. You assign them the licenses and the location. And once the wizard is completed, it will send a status email to a specific address. And that's it. Now, let's see how we make sure that we don't overwhelm our help desk with questions that can be easily resolved. There's 2 ways of addressing this. Number 1, make it easy for the user, and number 2, decentralizing frontline worker management. Let's assume I'm Tom Front, the frontline worker, and I want to log into my Teams. I don't have to remember usernames and passwords. That's why if I grab my mobile phone, I have a Samsung phone specifically for frontline workers, and I open my Teams client, I have the ability to log in with my phone number. I get notified that I will receive a text message with an access code. I enter the code. and I'm in. This way, I don't have to remember any usernames or passwords. Now, I play the role of the Frontline Worker Manager. I want to be able to change passwords quickly, to add or remove phone numbers very fast, right? In order to do this, I have access to a portal that is called MyStaff portal. So I'll just grab my phone and I'll go to mystaff.microsoft.com. I log in and now I can see the unit that I'm responsible of. I can go in and for Tom Front, I can either reset his password in case he's using username and password, edit the phone number, or simply remove the phone number from his account. It's as easy as that. Instead of calling help desk to help out the frontline worker and waiting for the turnaround, I can do this right from my phone. Very easy.